lovely humans, and welcome to Perks and Recreation, a monthly invitation to fall in love with Connecticut, one snack, trail, or small town surprise at a time. I'm Amanda Elgie, a voice actor, tea enthusiast, bookshop lurker, and your host. I've been in Connecticut for about 16 years, trading in the flat, straight backroads of downstate Illinois for the hills and changing leaves of Connecticut. Somewhere between another indie bookstore and my family's ongoing quest to try every ice cream shop in Connecticut, sipping on local teas, and admittedly a fair few from Dunkin', it became clear to me, Connecticut really is home. I've discovered it's the little things. A hidden reading nook, a gorgeous walking trail by the river, or the perfect London fog latte from a Main Street cafe, and definitely the community that turns a new place into your place. So why tune in? Perks and Recreation is your ticket to meet the wildly creative, brilliant, and truly lovable people who give this state its sparkle, and there are so many of them. We'll explore local magic all over the state, highlighting some of the best parts on and off the tourist trail, and talk to the folks who make that magic happen. The bakers and chefs, the artists and store owners, the history keepers and outdoor enthusiasts, and everybody in between. You'll learn more about the spots you know, and maybe find a new place to check out on a cozy Saturday afternoon. We're here to trade tips on the best bites, champion shopping local, and swap stories about the Connecticut magic we come across. Around here, a good day usually means discovering a new bakery, wandering around a fair or festival, and finding out that yes, there actually is a Dracula lair in East Haven. More on that later. But that's the recreation, so how about the perks? I may be from West Hartford, same as Mike Schur, creator of the TV show Parks and Rec. But Perks and Recreation is also a new rewards program that allows you to capitalize on your state pride by sharing awesome experiences with your friends on social media. The next time you hit a favorite restaurant, hiking trail, concert venue, or any other reason you love living here, grab your phone, take a pic, and share it on your socials to earn points that you can cash in for exclusive merch and once-in-a-lifetime experiences. From Yukon hoops to backstage passes at concerts and much, much more. It's about the authentic stories that show why Connecticut is one of the best places to live, work, and play. Bring your curiosity, your caffeine, and maybe your own furry sidekick if you have one. Connecticut is packed with stories just waiting to be told. And whether you're browsing a new bookshop or a new menu, I'll be right there with you, hopefully finding at least one new spot you can add to your calendar. Today's topic, only in Connecticut. We have some really unique venues here. In Connecticut, happy cows make happy chocolate. We'll go seaside to trackside, encounter stories on both page and stage, and end with a peek into a place featuring cuisine that I hadn't had a chance to try before. And what better place to start than with one of my favorite things, dessert. Wandering through farmland, maybe leaf peeping or heading to stores for a game. What rural drive is complete without someone in the car pointing and yelling out, cows? And who has the best cows? Thorncrest Farm in Goshen in the Litchfield Hills, where Kimberly and Clint Thorne have spent nearly 30 years perfecting what might be Connecticut's most zen approach to dairy farming. The result is Milk House chocolates. So good, they've been voted best chocolates in Connecticut by Connecticut Magazine for multiple years running. The whole setup is built around one simple philosophy. Stressed cows make terrible milk. So everything here, from the rubber mat bedding to the alignment of the barn with the Earth's magnetic field, is designed to keep their cows in comfort. Now, I don't know a Holstein from a Jersey, but it seems to me like what I can only describe as bovine bliss. Because here's where it gets really interesting. That spa-like treatment has a functional purpose. Each cow at Thorncrest isn't just producing milk. She's creating her own signature flavor profile. Take Daydream, their Jersey cow whose milk is so naturally sweet and buttery that Kimberly uses it exclusively for her famous sea salt caramels. She literally tried milk from other cows for the recipe, and nothing else worked. Then there's Charisma, the big black matriarch whose ultra-smooth cream is the secret behind their Cabernet Sauvignon dark chocolate truffles. Kimberly calls this single cow origin chocolates. She knows each cow's milk so well that she can detect if one of them is feeling off just by tasting it. And trust me, the cows aren't the only ones content here. We're talking 79% dark chocolate truffles, milk chocolate ganache made with fresh garden mint, and something called Tolly's Delights, which is their homemade peanut butter covered in dark chocolate with a touch of fleur de sel. Yeah, it was exactly as delicious as it sounds. The seasonal rotation is part of the magic here. Depending on the time of year, you might find gingerbread milk chocolate made with blackstrap molasses, which I love, and fresh pumpkin chocolates made with fresh raspberries and herbs from their on-site garden. I learned Goshen is actually known as the land of milk and honey while checking out a honey cinnamon cream chocolate. The whole operation started with a love story that began in Ireland in 1984, where Kimberly was working on a horse farm and discovered a little pastry shop making confections with farm-fresh cream. She and Clint ended up backpacking through 13 European countries, sampling chocolates and dreaming of combining farming with chocolate making. 4 decades later, they've turned that dream into Connecticut's most awarded chocolate operation, and it's become a family affair as their sons Garrett and Lyndon are part of the operation. Garrett focuses on the farm. Lyndon helps with farming while also supporting the family's growing furniture business. The family also hosts events throughout the year. The Goshen Open Farm Tour happened this past July, and they do chocolate and wine pairings in their hayloft. Because apparently, the only thing better than exceptional chocolate is exceptional chocolate paired with wine in a barn full of happy cows. The chocolate shop is open daily 10 to 5, except Sundays when it closes at 4. But if you want to meet Daydream, note the stable is open for visits Thursday through Sunday from 11 to 3. They recommend you call ahead, since they do close the stable to visitors in inclement or cold weather. So I got to sit down with Bryan Hurlburt, Commissioner of the Connecticut Department of Agriculture, and Rachel Lenda, the Director of Tourism for the state of Connecticut, to talk a little bit about Thorncrest, as well as so many other things that are going on with Connecticut dairy and Connecticut agriculture in general. More on that in another episode. Did you know we have the best cheese in the country, 2 years running? I didn't, but I tried it, and believe me when I say it deserves the top spot.
From the ground to the sound, you could be in Connecticut doing almost anything you want. You could be, on the shoreline slurping oysters, or you could be in the Northwest Hills eating world-class chocolate, and that's the value and the differential of Connecticut. So I'm Bryan Hurlburt. I'm the Commissioner of the Connecticut Department of Agriculture. I've been in this role for almost 7 years now, appointed by Governor Lamont. And it's a really unique and special opportunity for me in public service to serve an industry I really care deeply about, an industry that a lot of people in Connecticut will recognize and take advantage of, and that's Connecticut agriculture. So whether it's visiting a farmer's market or picking out a Christmas tree or going to an ice cream stand, we have a whole bunch of opportunities for people to take advantage of what Connecticut farms produce. So I came here through a lot of years in public service. I served in the Connecticut House of Representatives for 7 years. I served in the Obama administration as the state executive director of the Connecticut Farm Service Agency. I worked at a nutrition insecurity food program at Wholesome Way, which did national programming to connect people with food resources. SNAP Doubling was one of their programs, so we could help people buy more local fresh produce. And I was the executive director of the Connecticut Farm Bureau. So a blend of public policy, public administration, nonprofit work, but the vein is I care deeply about helping people. Public service is the avenue that I've tried to choose as much as I possibly could, and I have that opportunity for an amazing industry, an amazing agency, and an administration that cares deeply about not only local businesses, but what people are eating and how they're getting their food.
My name is Rachel Lenda. I'm the Director of Tourism for the state of Connecticut. I work for the Department of Economic Community Development, and I have the best job in the state of Connecticut.
Second best job.
Well, we'll agree to disagree. I'm the Director of Tourism, so I'm all things fun. My job is for everybody to dip their toe in the Connecticut pool and say that Connecticut has to be their home eventually at one point after they visit and they travel. My job is to help our constituents, all of our restaurateurs, our inns, our hotels, attractions, things to do, and then partnering with amazing agencies like the Department of Agriculture for agritourism, which is ginormous. I mean, I've got a 3.5-year-old, and we love to go to Raylight Farm and see Mr. Gobbles the turkey and feed the goats, and it's wholesome, it's good, and exposes all walks of life to all of the different ways of how they can incorporate not only just the food that they eat, but the experiences that they have with the earth, and I think as we're going into tourism in 2026, we're looking at trends of things like tourism, which is, dark skies and being on farms and going into wineries and breweries and, going into the shoreline to aquaculture and seeing how oysters are made. Connecticut used to be the oyster capital of the world, and we're bringing it back. We've got the oyster trail. So my job is to market Connecticut as a great place to visit that will hopefully turn them into somebody who either wants to go to school here, wants to work here, remote, vacation, buy a second home. Or just eat New Haven pizza all the time. And they can do that too.
So one of the great things about Connecticut is, and our producers, is we're, you can do niche products in Connecticut and make a business out of it, right? So no offense to our friends in Central Illinois, but if you're going to do, a world-class chocolate, you can. Who are you going to sell it to? Who's going to come to your farm and buy it, right? And what we have in Connecticut is, Thorncrest Chocolates is like 20 minutes outside of downtown Torrington. It's right by Litchfield. It is a place that you can easily get to if you're not from that area, right? So, or, I live in Northeast Connecticut. If I'm going to the Northwest part of the state for a day, I can do a whole bunch of things, right? You talked about wineries and breweries. There's winery and breweries out there. You can add Thorncrest to that trip agenda. And so you have this really amazing dairy operation with less than 24 cows that are picking out what to make with the individual chocolate that day based on what that cow ate that morning, because the flavor profile is a little bit differently. Show me where you're going to get that same sort of touch and feel with the agricultural component with the final food product. And they're growing their own mint so when they make their mint chocolates, that the mint that's in the chocolate is from the farm. The milk that's in the milk chocolate is from the farm. I mean, the story is an amazing story, and people want the story and the experience. You can go in to, Target and buy chocolates. Very different experience. But if you're going to be out visiting a part of the state, you're going to want to pick up those really unique opportunities. And Thorncrest is an amazing one. You can buy their chocolates, and 10 minutes down the road is a farm winery. You can have the Thorncrest chocolates at a farm winery where they're growing the grapes that you're looking over from the tasting room. You can go on a hike right after that. You can go down to have, ice cream at Arethusa, shortly after that. I mean, that, and that's in 20-minute drives, right? You are not going hours apart from each other. It's, these are very convenient stops, and Connecticut can do that because we are a small state, but we have population bases all over. So you're never too far from the nearest farm.
And I think too, what Commissioner Hurlburt brings up that's absolutely 10 out of 10 on point is that we're seeing this trend with travelers and how they want to self-identify with an area. Right. So New England is super historic. We've got, it's when you go somewhere else, they say, from another country, they say, I'm from Ireland. I'm Irish. Well, in America, we say, what's your nationality? And nobody ever says, American. They say, I'm Italian or I'm Irish. And I think because we are in the oldest part of the country, that we have so many different cultures that are within the four walls of our state. And because of geographic proximity, it's so small. You can get from one end of the state to the other in 2.5 hours. So, and we also have the train system, which is amazing. You can go and enjoy the shoreline using, Amtrak or Metro North or, the MTA or the Hartford line. And, if you just want to have a leisurely day, I recently took the train when I had to go to Stamford. I was like, why have I not done this sooner? It's so easy. It's so easy, and I love it. So I think in the ferry system, right? If you go up the Connecticut River,
oldest running ferry,
Chester Hadline Ferry. What I love about what the commissioner said was he talked about itineraries. And basically, when we're thinking about the storytelling of Connecticut from a tourism aspect, it's finding the hook. The hook is, the hook could be Thorncrest.
Right.
The niche way that they make it. And then while they're in the area, they're already up in Litchfield Hills. They can go to Abner Hotel. They can go and take a hike or go over to Kent Falls and go.
Right.
Oh, so stunning.
The brewery and the park.
The brewery and the park. Yes. We had to throw the brewery in there. It's agricultural, so
They are a Connecticut farm brewery.
But you hit the nail on the head, Commissioner. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next spot is a place that's basically heaven for anyone who's ever gotten lost in a good book. And I mean literally lost, because I've spent hours wandering the book barn in Niantic, and I still discover new corners I've never seen before every time I'm there. The book barn is a literary wonderland, sprawling across 1.5 acres. 5 historic buildings, outdoor bookstalls snaking through gardens, and a small pasture of goats wandering around like they're going to give you a book recommendation. And that's just one of the 3 locations, all within a mile of each other down Main Street, each with its own focus. I promise it's totally worth checking out every location. The book barn isn't just a bookstore. It's what happens when someone's passion project grows completely out of control, in the best possible way. Owner Randy White started the book barn back in 1988 with 3 bookcases, 800 books, and a yard sale couch in what's now called the main barn. Now, they have over 500,000 books, curated over the years, priced and categorized, and ready for you to pluck from their shelves to find a new story or passion you didn't even know you needed. And if you check each and every one and still can't find something, it's easy to try again next month. The book barn buys used books every day, and often takes in over 10,000 new stories a week from estate buys and patrons with trunks full of book boxes. I definitely sell my fair share of books every time I go, but I generally come away with more than I started with. Each building has its own personality. There's Ellis Island, where new arrivals wait to be sorted. Then there's The Haunted, filled with poetry, drama, and essays, and flanked by what they call graveyards, dotted with the Halloween decorations that had to move out to make room for more books. The whole place is the most delightful application of organized chaos. You'll find sections labeled "Dalla Dalla Books, Y'all" and "Classic Must-Haves." And you can probably figure out what's in there. Good luck guessing what exactly qualifies a book to join Hades without at least taking a pass down the shelves, though. But that's actually the point, because Hades is hot in the summer, cold in the winter, sometimes has a small river in it if it's rained a lot, and the paperbacks are definitely not in alphabetical order. There's even an outhouse, and though the structure is original to the property, it's not actually used for its original purpose. It houses, well, books about being outdoors. What makes this place truly magical isn't just the books, though. It's everything else. I mentioned the resident goats, Philly, Cashew, Peanut, and Sapphire, who you can feed for 25 cents a bag, which is a great option if you bring kids with you. But if you've been to the book barn before, then you probably remember the cats. They're definitely unofficial staff. At any given time, you might encounter more than a dozen cats roaming the property. There's Mal, the friendly black cat who might come greet you personally. Cutie Pie prefers to lounge mostly atop bookshelves on the second floor. And Time, who has claimed a particular spot on the couch arm. At one point, Chapter 3, one of their satellite locations, had a whole family of cats. Rosemary, the calico mother, along with her kittens. These aren't just random strays. They are integral to the book barn experience. The cats have become so famous that the book barn used to maintain individual profiles for each one on their website. New cats seem to find their way to this literary sanctuary, and the community clearly adores them. People plan visits specifically hoping to meet the book cats, pay a quarter for a couple of carrots to give the goats, and maybe pick up a couple new stories along the way before a stroll along the cute Niantic downtown. So feel free to hit me up for a lunch or dinner recommendation, because there are so many cute options there that are also delicious. There are little radio flyer wagons scattered around for the kids to play with, along with chess tables, a pirate-themed playscape, and fairy houses tucked into the gardens. During the warmer months, the gardens are lush and perfect for settling in with a new book purchase. I'm not gonna lie, I've spent hours there in the summer months. The book barn isn't just a store. It's about creating a space where people can discover books they didn't know existed. As I mentioned, you can bring your own books to sell, and make sure to bring a tote, because you will be bringing something home. Maybe you'll strike gold like a New York dealer who picked up a 1924 first edition of The Velveteen Rabbit for $8,000. Or maybe you'll be content finding not one, not two, but 5 shelves just in the category of shipwrecks at Chapter 3. Whatever niche you're passionate about, it's probably got a whole section here. You aren't going to get that at Barnes & Noble. It's the kind of place where you go in looking for one thing and come out with a stack of books you never knew you needed. Plus a story about a time you played chess next to a barn full of mysteries, while goats wandered by and a cat named Mao decided you were worth investigating. For that reason, it's been named one of the 12 global bookstores worth traveling for, alongside locations in Mexico City, Brussels, and New York. I'm a little bit bookstore obsessed, and I've actually been to 4 of the spots on Food 52's list, the others being Buenos Aires, Asheville, and Paris. And the Book Barn is genuinely my favorite. So if you're looking for an excuse to spend an afternoon in one of Connecticut's most wonderfully cozy places, head down to Niantic. Just remember to bring a wagon, some cash for goat carrots, and maybe an extra hour or two. But don't take my word for it. I got to chat with my friend Stephanie Steffen, Connecticut author and Book Barn enthusiast, about what draws her to the place.
My name is Stephanie Steffen, and I write fiction that's weird, whimsical, and darkly delicious.
Do you remember your first visit to the Book Barn?
Yes, I do. My first visit to the Book Barn was amazing. So I was visiting some family friends who live nearby, and they knew that I loved to read. And so they said, okay, we have the perfect place to take you. I had no idea what I was going to get into. I knew there'd be books. I had no idea how many books. The Book Barn is just huge. Multiple buildings spanning one single property with just so many books and arranged in a way that feels like you're entering some kind of magical marketplace.
How does the Book Barn make you feel when you're there?
When I'm at the Book Barn, I feel a sense of exploration and wonder. I feel like the Book Barn encourages people who visit to take their time and really discover books. Much in the way that I think you discover books, at a library, but very different from, we'll say, like a Barnes & Noble or something. It's a slow-paced, treasure-seeking kind of experience for readers.
What is the most unusual or surprising book you've discovered at Book Barn?
My favorite book that I discovered at Book Barn was a 1930s copy of Little Women. It was so beautiful, fully illustrated, with a green cover and a green image of a woman and, the large ball gown on the front. And it was just in beautiful condition. You could tell that the person who owned it really loved it and took care of it. So it was exciting to find it and then give it a new home.
Gosh, I think I would have lost my mind.
It's right over there.
Oh, I can't wait
you.
to see it. Yeah. Tell me about the cats. Do they actually help customers find books, or are they just there for moral support?
I love the cats. So it's funny you asked that. The last time I was there, I sort of stumbled upon the cats. I was in an upper room looking at books, and I turned the corner, and they were all sitting on this beautiful couch together. And it was very much like, I was reminded of Macbeth, and the Weird Sisters.
Yeah.
I thought maybe they would give me some kind of prophecy about what I should read next or where to find my favorite book.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. They didn't help me find books, but I think they have the power to do so.
Why do you think shopping at the Book Barn beats ordering books online? And what is the magic that something like Amazon can't replicate?
Well, first of all, it's in the real world. And that always beats scrolling online. But I think part of it too, there's quite a few factors. One is you are more likely to run into books that are older, that are maybe real gems that you've never heard of before. Like I said earlier, it's that process of discovering, of doing something slow, taking your time, exploring the space and the shelves, which are just packed, maybe stumbling into a section and finding that you're interested in it, but you didn't know you were interested in it. For example, they have a whole area of history books, separated by different time periods and different types of interests. And so you find yourself looking at things that you didn't even know you had, that you might read, you didn't know you had an interest in. And I think if you're a book person, it's just the way they set it up too. Having these different buildings, it's like this unfurling of books. Every building you go into, it's like, oh my God, there's another building and another building and another building. It kind of inspires that feeling of just endless magic, endless reading that I think you experience when you're a kid a lot and you're first discovering the kinds of things you like to read.
Oh, I like that. To me, it feels like whimsical chaos.
Yes.
It's just, there's no, I almost like that they don't have like a catalog system and that it's just, you find what's there because you just never know what you're going to find. And kind of sorting through all of the chaos of it all is the magic of the process.
I agree. Yeah, it is whimsical chaos. You definitely feel like you've stepped into another world. The floor is a little bit uneven, or like the shelves have a little bit of like a tipsy kind of look to them. It just looks like a place that sort of just appeared one day and it's just been there for years. And it will continue to just sort of exist in this magical liminal library space forever.
So usually the settings of the books I'm reading are the only time you'll find me on the high seas. But let me tell you about the most delightful floating time machine you'll ever see, the Charles W. Morgan, the last wooden whaling ship in the world, sitting majestically at Mystic Seaport like she owns the place, which honestly, she kind of does. Originally one of 2,700 wooden whaling ships built in 19th century America, she's the only one left, and the second oldest vessel in the world that you could still hop aboard today and sail. Maybe you've known the Charles W. Morgan splashed on an iconic Connecticut postcard shot. Or maybe you've gotten up close with a visit to the seaport. After all, it's rated a must-do experience on TripAdvisor. But if you haven't been, or if the last time you went was a field trip in 8th grade, then let me invite you to make the journey and take a walk around the historic buildings at the seaport before spending some time aboard the Charles W. Morgan herself. She looms large in the harbor. 113 feet of weathered wood and nearly 2 centuries of maritime history that's been through more than most buildings twice her age. Built in 1841, she's got the stories to prove it. The Morgan didn't just sail around looking pretty for 8 years. She worked hard. She took 37 voyages over 8 decades, chasing whales to every corner of the globe. Most of these whaling voyages lasted 3 years or more, which means her crew, typically around 30 to 35 sailors, basically lived and worked in a floating office that makes my college apartment look like the height of luxury. Though the ship was built in Massachusetts, the crews came from all over the world. Men from Cape Verde, Guam, Hawaii, the Caribbean, and New England all called this ship home. The captain got a spacious cabin in the stern with an actual lounge and a bed. Meanwhile, the Green Hands, the lowest-ranking crew members, shared a 24-bunk room in the forecastle where they slept, ate, and spent all their off-duty time together. In rough seas. For years at a time. I'm an introvert. Just thinking about it is overwhelming. But for some, this was the ticket to a dream. And I mentioned how the Morgan is the last remaining of a fleet of 2,700 or so. But it's actually kind of incredible we even have the one. She survived crushing Arctic ice, countless storms, Cape Horn roundings that terrified even experienced sailors, and even though she retired from whaling in 1921, she was in the path of the Great Hurricane of 1938 that wrecked a swath of New England. No wonder she was nicknamed the Lucky Ship. The last voyage, her shortest ever, at 8.5 months, brought in a little over $25,000 in cargo, the whale blubber primarily used for lamps. Her 80-year career brought in around 2,500 whales, and by the time she sailed her last journey, she was already one of only a few wooden whalers still on the water. After retirement, she almost disappeared entirely, as so many of her fleetmates did. She sat abandoned in Fairhaven, Massachusetts, until 1924, when a steamer fire nearly destroyed her. Lucky again. That's when Colonel Edward Howland Robinson Greene, whose grandfather had actually owned the Morgan decades earlier, stepped in and bought her. He turned her into a tourist attraction on his South Dartmouth estate, which is probably the maritime equivalent of a racehorse becoming a petting zoo animal, but at least she was maintained, cared for, and respected, and finding a new life as an educational experience. Fast forward to 1941, and the Marine Historical Association, now the Mystic Seaport Museum, brought her to Connecticut, where she's been the crown jewel of the museum ever since. Over 20 million visitors have walked her deck. The feel of being aboard something that's been through so much history is simply astounding. In 2014, after a 5-year, multi-million-dollar restoration, they actually took her back to sea for the first time in 93 years. Her 38th voyage was a 3-month ceremonial tour of New England ports, proving that this 183-year-old ship could still handle herself on the water. Today, you can actually climb aboard and explore everything from the massive trypots on deck, where they rendered whale blubber into oil, to the cramped quarters below. The museum runs special programs all summer long, including something called the Summer of the Morgan, with guided tours that take you into normally restricted areas like the ship's hold. This isn't just a museum piece gathering dust. She's a living classroom where you can touch the same railings that sailors gripped during Atlantic storms, stand where harpooners prepared for whale hunts, and get an understanding of what life was like when Connecticut was at the heart of one of America's most dangerous and lucrative industries. So if you're looking for a place where history isn't just displayed, but lived and breathed, head down to Mystic. I did a few weeks ago and sat down with Maria Petrillo, Director of Interpretation at Mystic Seaport. She has a graduate degree and a ton of experience in naval and maritime history, and spent some time talking to me about what she thinks makes the Morgan so special.
My name is Maria Petrillo. I'm the Director of Historical Interpretation here at Mystic Seaport Museum. I've worked for the museum for just over 10 years, and I actually came from the area. So I grew up in North Stonington, Connecticut. I moved away. I attended grad school. I lived in Charleston, South Carolina for a bit, and then I ended up back here in 2013, and I've been working at the museum ever since. I have a background in history and specifically British naval history. And then when I came here, I obviously had to pivot back to American history and specifically whaling history and New England maritime history as we interpret the village and the history of this area of the world.
Thank you. Oh, I want a side quest on that, but I won't. What's your favorite part of working with a ship that's literally sailed through American history?
Yeah, so I think one of the incredible things is, I grew up coming to the museum as a kid. I obviously grew up locally, and I always remember being just so fascinated with the Morgan, and then being able to come back and really get to know the ship as well as you do when you work on it and around it all the time. I think that's my favorite thing. We get to work aloft in the rigging and we interpret the ship and we're on the ship at all hours of the day. And it's just such an immersive experience having that relationship with an artifact that's seen so much of American history and has seen so much of the world, and to have your own sort of personal experience. For me, that's working here, but also that personal experience of just coming on the ship as a kid and remembering it and it being part of the reason that I did go study, naval and maritime history at my grad program. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Does it feel very nostalgic for you, being here now?
It does. It feels nostalgic, and it also feels different because obviously I come to the museum now for a job, and it is so different, and it's such a different experience than when I was a kid. But every once in a while, I'm still walking around campus. I'm like, oh, I remember when I did that as a 7-year-old, and isn't that wild that I'm here and I'm still working here and I'm still enjoying it. So I love that.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Are there any events in the works surrounding the Charles W. Morgan?
Yeah, so this summer we'll be hosting our 41st Moby Dick Marathon, which is a 24-hour reading of Herman Melville's classic novel, Moby Dick. That actually takes place on the Charles W. Morgan. It's the only time that we have visitors who actually get to stay not overboard. It's the only time that visitors get to stay overnight on board the Charles W. Morgan. So it always happens on Melville's birthday. So we start at noon on July 31st, and the program runs through August 1st. We end the reading with celebration and cake to celebrate Herman Melville.
That's cool. And so you said people stay on the ship?
Yes. So we staff the ship overnight, and we invite readers to stay on the ship, and we do the reading of the novel. out on the deck if the weather is nice. If we get a little rain, we sometimes have to retreat back down below. But we do the reading on the Morgan. And what's so cool about that is the Morgan is the only surviving wooden whale ship anywhere in the world. And it's as close as you can possibly get to Melville's experience at sea on a whaler, and as close as you can get to what he's writing about on the Pequod.
That's such a unique experience. Wow.
Yeah, it's really fun. And it's actually the longest running Melville marathon or Moby Dick marathon in the country and probably in the world. If we're being honest, I haven't checked everywhere, but it seems likely.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
I think you're probably right.
So the other exhibition that we're hosting this coming year is a Lego exhibition. So it's called Brick Rex, and it's Sunken Ships in Lego Bricks. It opens here on March 28th, 2026, and will be here all throughout the summer. And we're really excited about this exhibit. It really explores our fascination with shipwrecks, what we can learn from them, how it informs what we know about the maritime world, how that world has changed. And then, of course, it's really fun because there are hands-on opportunities where people get to build their own boats, and there's interactives for kids. And so we're really, really excited about that. And we really hope that people will come see this exhibition in 2026.
I can imagine they will. I know Lego's really popular.
Yes.
A great family event.
Who doesn't love Legos? Yeah. So they're really fun. And it's a great exhibit for kids and adults. You know, anybody who loves Legos who wants to come here can, learn a lot and also play with Legos.
For someone who's never been to Mystic Seaport before, what's your elevator pitch for why they should buy a ticket and come aboard?
There's so many great reasons, but I think that, here at Mystic Seaport, we preserve artifacts, buildings, ships, but also skills. So you come to the museum and, not only do you get all these fabulous exhibitions, but you get this really immersive experience on board vessels like the Charles W. Morgan. I mean, it is quite literally the only place in the world that you can walk onto a 19th century wooden whaling ship. And we also have historic tradesmen who are demonstrating trades from the 19th century. So you get this really interactive, really immersive experience at the museum. And you also get a chance to, ask questions and learn about it. It's a beautiful place on the Mystic River. I mean, you can't get better scenery than walking around along the waterfront here at the museum. So I think it's just this wonderful mix of immersion, this beautiful scenic location, and all of the wonderful programming that we have. And, there's something for everybody. If you don't love boats, there's still a lot to do here. I mean, we have a lot of things on shore that are still really fun. We have lots of kids programming activities. We have lots of trades. We have exhibit galleries. We have art exhibits. We are going to have Legos this summer. So I think there's something for everybody. And there's always something a little bit new, like whether it's a new season or a new program or a new exhibition, I always feel like there's something worth coming back for.
What is a hidden thing that most visitors don't notice but captures your imagination about any of the ships here at the seaport?
That's a good question. I don't know that there's anything hidden, but I think something that's really unique for us is that most of our vessels, Morgan right now, and, hopefully the LA Denton when that restoration is complete, we really use those vessels and we continue to do shipboard work on them. So a big part of So a big part of what my staff does is we actually go aloft and we set sails on the Charles W. Morgan. We lower a whaleboat into the water in the summer and demonstrate, exactly how did they get that boat into the water? How did they get into that boat? And then how did they go after a whale in a 30-foot boat? So I love that these are still living artifacts. I think sometimes we think artifact, you think something that is behind glass or that you can't touch. And I just love that we have all of these incredible artifacts that we still use and invite visitors to experience actively. So when we're setting sail, we ask visitors to pull on the line with us. When we're raising a whaleboat, we ask them to help because it's so important to get that hands-on experience. And we love that. And so I love that those artifacts, those historic things are still so alive today.
Okay, folks. Let's talk about one of those experiences that make you feel like you've stepped into a Norman Rockwell painting. The Essex Steam Train and Riverboat. This is the Connecticut River Valley at its absolute finest. And trust me, it's the kind of adventure that'll have you wondering why we ever stopped traveling by train in the first place. Picture this. You're standing at the historic 1892 Essex Station, built when Grover Cleveland was president. The whistle blows, steam billows. And suddenly you're aboard a genuine steam locomotive, pulling vintage passenger coaches through some of the most gorgeous countryside Connecticut has to offer. The Valley Railroad Company has been keeping this magic alive since 1971, and their mission is beautifully simple. Preserve our state's mechanical and transportation heritage by actually using it, not just putting it behind glass. They've got steam locomotives that burn 2 tons of coal a day and evaporate 6,000 gallons of water, pulling 400-ton trains. That's not a museum exhibit. That's a working piece of history. Their star performer is locomotive number 40, built by the American Locomotive Company back in 1920. This beauty has lived quite a life. Originally designed for hauling logs in the Pacific Northwest, then shipped to North Carolina, then discovered sitting forgotten in an engine house until the Valley Railroad rescued her in 1977. She's one of fewer than 200 steam locomotives still operating in the United States, which makes every ride feel pretty special. But here's where it gets even better. The classic train and riverboat combo is a 2.5-hour journey that starts with that 12-mile narrated trip through Deep River and Chester. You're rolling through quintessential New England towns, past tidal wetlands, where you might spot cormorants, blue herons, egrets, and red-winged blackbirds. In February and March, you've got a front-row seat to watch bald eagles migrate south from Canada and Maine to the Connecticut River Valley. Then you arrive at Deep River Landing and transfer to the Becky Thatcher Riverboat for a 1.5-hour cruise along the Connecticut River. The Nature Conservancy has designated this area as one of the last great places on Earth, which sounds like marketing speak until you're actually there, watching the undeveloped shoreline of Selden Neck State Park drift by, accessible only by boat. Now, if you really want to up your game, there's the Essex Clipper dinner train. And this is where the romance of rail travel gets turned up to 11. You're talking about a 4-course meal served in beautifully restored 1920s Pullman dining cars, pulled by a vintage diesel locomotive through 2.5 hours of Connecticut River Valley scenery. The kind of experience that makes you understand why people used to dress up to travel. The dinner train runs on weekends from May through October, with spring and summer departures at 7 p.m. on Saturdays and 4 p.m. on Sundays. Fall gets even more magical, with morning and afternoon options during peak foliage season. Fair warning, though, this is limited to passengers 10 and older. Trains leave exactly on time, and you'll want to make reservations well in advance. They also do seasonal experiences that are absolutely perfect for families. The Polar Express runs during the holidays, complete with hot chocolate, cookies, and visits from Santa and Mrs. Claus in each car. There's something called Tracks of Terror for Halloween, and special foliage runs when the Connecticut River Valley turns into that postcard-perfect New England autumn scene we all dream about. What really sets this place apart is that it's not just a tourist attraction. It's a working piece of Connecticut's transportation history. The original Connecticut Valley Railroad was built in 1871. Today, the state owns the tracks and leases them to the Valley Railroad Company, which means every time you ride, you're helping keep this heritage alive. The whole operation runs from late March through December, with different schedules for different seasons. Essex Station itself is worth the trip, and it's more than just a departure point. They've got event facilities, catering, a gift shop, and enough parking to handle groups. It's become a destination for weddings and special events, because honestly, what could be more romantic than saying your vows at a historic train station? And I'm sure the pictures are gorgeous. So whether you're looking for a family adventure, a romantic dinner date with a twist, or just want to experience Connecticut the way our great-grandparents did, the Essex Steam Train delivers. Just remember to arrive 30 minutes early, bring your camera, and maybe leave the schedule at home for a few hours. Some things are worth slowing down for. So let me tell you about a place where Broadway dreams are born in the most unlikely setting. The Goodspeed Opera House in East Haddam, a stunning Victorian mansion rising 6 stories above the Connecticut River, looking like it belongs in a fairy tale rather than being the launching pad for some of America's most beloved musicals. When you pull up to this gorgeous Second Empire-style building with its distinctive mansard roof, you'd never guess that inside those walls, Annie, Man of La Mancha, and Shenandoah all took their first theatrical breaths before conquering Broadway. This isn't just any regional theater. It's literally where Broadway shows are born. The story starts with William H. Goodspeed, a shipping and banking magnate, who apparently had excellent taste and deep pockets. In 1876, he built what he called an opera house, though, ironically, they never actually performed operas there. The building was a marvel of multi-purpose design. The first floor housed a general store, offices, and a steamboat docking point, while the top 2 floors contained the theater. Performers arrived by steamboat directly from New York theaters, which sounds infinitely more glamorous than today's I-95 traffic. After William Goodspeed died in 1882, this architectural gem started a slow slide into obscurity. It became a World War I militia base, then a general store, and finally, brace yourselves, a storage facility for the State Highway Department's snowplows. By 1958, it was scheduled for demolition. Enter the heroes of this story, a group of theater lovers and preservationists, including some heavy hitters like composer Richard Rodgers, who lobbied to save this magnificent building. They formed the Goodspeed Opera House Foundation in 1959, raised the money, and pulled off one of Connecticut's greatest preservation success stories. On June 18, 1963, the restored Goodspeed reopened with a production of Oh Lady, Lady, and even President Kennedy sent a congratulatory message. Top tickets were $5.50, which probably seemed expensive at the time, but sounds like a steal now. The theater itself is on the 4th floor of what's supposedly the tallest wooden structure on the entire Connecticut River. Getting scenery up there is an adventure itself. They have to winch everything up through an old elevator shaft, which, speaking as a theater person, must make load-in days particularly interesting for the crew. But the real magic happens when these productions hit the stage. Since 1968, 21 Goodspeed productions have transferred to Broadway, winning more than a dozen Tony Awards. The theater itself has won 2 special Tony Awards, in 1980 and 1995, making it the first regional theater in America to receive that honor twice. Man of La Mancha premiered here in 1965 and went on to run for 2,328 performances on Broadway, winning 5 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. Annie opened here in 1977, and we all know how that turned out. It became one of the most beloved musicals in American theater history. This year, they're actually bringing Annie back for its 50th anniversary celebration, which feels pretty full circle. The beauty of Goodspeed isn't just its track record, it's the intimate experience. With just 398 seats, you're close enough to see every expression, hear every note without amplification, and feel like you're part of something really special. They produce about 400 performances each year from April through December, attracting over 120,000 patrons to the Connecticut River Valley. Their 2026 season promises an Andrew Lloyd Webber mega hit, a Gershwin romp, and that triumphant return of Annie. The setting couldn't be more perfect either. Anytime I go to a show, I always try to go a little early to spend the whole day there. East Haddam is quintessential Connecticut River Valley. Historic villages, antique shops, restaurants, and that iconic swing bridge you cross to get there. It is the kind of place where you can make a whole day of it. Maybe catch the Essex steam train, grab dinner, and then settle in for a show that might just be the next big Broadway hit. So if you're looking for theater that's both intimate and potentially historic, head down to East Haddam. The Goodspeed Opera House has been proving for over 60 years that sometimes the best things really do come in beautifully restored Victorian packages. I talked to Connecticut resident, good friend, and longtime Goodspeed season ticket holder, Kat Carter, about what keeps her coming back year after year.
My name is Kat Carter. I'm an associate director in advising at CT State Manchester.
Today, I wanted to talk to you about Goodspeed.
Awesome. One of my favorite things in the state.
And the reason I picked you to talk to about this was because I know that you have such a love for Goodspeed. We were literally just there together a couple of weeks ago.
That's right.
So we went to see a chorus line.
Yep.
It was delightful.
It was one singular sensation, you might say.
You might say. On top of that moment that we had at Goodspeed, my question for you is, what's one show or moment at the Goodspeed that was especially memorable to you?
I'm going to pick a moment that's not related to the show because my wife, Goodspeed is so important to me that my wife and I got married right across the river at the River House at Goodspeed Station.
About that.
Yeah. And we did that on purpose because I wanted to have the Opera House in the background of all of our pictures. And we were taking our pictures across the river. And our photographer said, hey, let's go across the swing bridge and get some pictures right in front of the Opera House. It was with our whole wedding party. We got married on a Saturday. So they had a matinee going on. And we're all gathered out on the steps and on the table, and we're doing all these different poses and pictures. And the staff from Goodspeed, who I know many of them by face just because we're there 3 or 4 times a year, they come out like, in their little usher's uniforms and so graciously are like, hey, I just wanted to give you all 5-minute heads up. Curtain is almost going to go down and then intermission, and we want to make sure that you guys get your pictures in before like people start flooding out during the intermission. And you're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. We'll wrap it up. Like, I really appreciate the heads up. And it was just like one of those, like, they didn't have to do that. They could have just said, well, you know what? Their pictures are going to be over when people start flooding out. And they came in such like a kind and like generous and thoughtful way. And they're like almost whispering so that they didn't want to disturb us, even though we're very clearly on their property and just like taking all these pictures.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those moments that made me realize this is why I love this place.
That's so nice.
Right?
And your pictures turned out beautifully. I've seen them.
Thank you so much. It was awesome. It was a beautiful day. We had wonderful weather.
So as longtime season ticket holders, what keeps you coming back to Goodspeed? I know you guys are there a lot.
We are. It is really, so I love Broadway. Broadway is a 3-hour train ride though for us, right? So it's an hour, we're in South Windsor, so it's an hour down to West Haven where we take the train in, and then, it's you have to make a day of it to go in, which we love doing, but it is just so lovely to be able to hop in the car and drive for 50 minutes down 91 to Route 9 to be at what is, in my opinion, many Broadway caliber shows right here in the state. So yeah, it's the level of performances. It's the people who come in. We saw over the years, I've seen Kristen Chenoweth, Idina Menzel, Corbin Bleu, most recently in Summer Stock. Yeah, they do. Their shows are prolific. You forget that you're not on Broadway because it's just so well done.
Mm-hmm. Every show I've seen there has been just
brilliant,
top tier.
Yeah,
tier.
And for years and years and years, they only did 3 shows a year, and then I forget if it was 21 or 22, but they do 4 shows a year now, right? So they do 3 traditional shows, and then they do like a holiday show. And it's just been such a treat. I'm like, oh, I get 4 a year now? This is the best. So you should just get the 3, and that's what ran. So, they did Christmas Story last year, and I took my son Liam to that, and that was just a joy.
If there is someone who hasn't been to Goodspeed yet, do you have any advice for first-timers visiting? And is there anything you think they shouldn't miss when they come in?
If you go for a matinee, you can't do this in the evenings because they're closed, but if you go for the matinee, you need to go over the swing bridge and go up the road a little bit to Wrestling Cats Cafe. It's at the top there.
Oh, I love Wrestling Cats.
Wrestling Cats is the best. What a gem in Connecticut. Wonderful sandwiches, wraps, salads, stuff like that. Super cool place. But, I think they close at, I don't know if they close around like 3 or 4, but they're definitely
like
not
a lunch place.
Yeah, it's a lunch place. So if you're catching a matinee, you gotta check them out. Here's a fun tip. We don't park behind the Gelston House. There is parking right up the road from Goodspeed that lets you, or right across the street from Goodspeed, that it looks like you shouldn't be able to park there because there's potholes everywhere. But it's great free parking and it's right there and it's a little bit of a shorter walk.
Oh yeah, that's where we parked. It was really easy.
Yeah, it was super easy. Mm-hmm. Not that parking at Goodspeed is tough. I mean, it's not that much farther around the corner, but anytime that I can save a couple steps, why not? Their drinks are great. They always have specialty drinks for the show, which is super fun. Get yourself a souvenir cup because then you don't have to pay the $2 for the cup and you can bring it in. It's like an adult sippy cup is what we always call it. But yeah, catch a show. It's beautiful. I love it there.
It is.
What a gem.
So you're driving down Main Street in East Haven when you spot this unassuming building with a name that immediately makes you think of Gothic castles and mysterious fog. But once you step inside, you're not just getting dinner. You're getting transported to old world Eastern Europe, complete with Dracula's throne, where you can pose for Instagram photos. This is the brainchild of Chris and Alina, a Romanian couple who have created something truly special in a historic mill building where you can actually see the running stream that once powered the operation through the dining room windows. The decor is unapologetically theatrical. Dark wood, traditional music, photos and history of Vlad the Impaler scattered throughout, and enough vampire-themed touches to make you wonder if they're serving dinner or hosting a seance. But let's talk about food, because this is where Transylvania gets serious. We're talking authentic Romanian and Eastern European cuisine that you literally cannot find anywhere else in Connecticut. Their stuffed cabbage, sarmale, is the real deal. Pork and rice stuffing wrapped in tender cabbage leaves, served with polenta and sour cream. It's comfort food that'll make you understand why this dish has sustained families through centuries of Eastern European winters. Then there's something called Vlad's favorite, Romanian skinless sausages called mici, served with French fries, Dijon mustard, and pickled salad. These aren't your backyard barbecue sausages. They're made with a specific blend of beef, pork, and spices that has been perfected over generations. The Hungarian beef goulash is another standout. Oh, I'm making myself hungry just thinking about it. With tender beef, red peppers, onions, and potatoes, topped with sour cream and parsley. And if you're feeling adventurous, try the traditional stew, which comes with stick sausage, pork, chicken, homemade bacon, polenta, and a sunny-side-up egg. But what really sets this place apart? The hospitality. This is a family-owned operation where the owners actually care about your experience. One reviewer mentioned ordering a sandwich that they were out of, and instead of just apologizing, the owner came to the table personally and had the chef create a custom vegetarian dish she really enjoyed. That's the kind of service that makes you want to become a regular. Their dessert game is strong too. There's something called Vlad the Impaler, traditional donuts with strawberry syrup and wild forest berries jam that they actually flame at your table. Because apparently, even dessert needs a little drama here. Then there's papanache, fried homemade farmer's cheese donuts with seasonal jams and sour cream. Which sounds weird until you taste it and realize it's basically heaven in donut form. The building itself tells a story. It's housed in what used to be a working mill, and that historical character comes through everywhere. From the exposed beams to the view of Farm River flowing by your table. There's a main dining room, a lively bar area with big screen TV for sports, and even private event space for parties. They serve lunch and dinner Thursday through Sunday, with the bar staying open until 10 p.m. on weekends. Fair warning, though, this isn't fast food. This is made-from-scratch Eastern European cooking that takes time and care. But that's exactly the point. In a world of chain restaurants and rushed meals, Transylvania is serving up something authentic and memorable. Whether you're Romanian and homesick for Mama Liga, that's Romanian polenta. Or you've never tried Eastern European food, but you're curious about flavors beyond your usual rotation, this place delivers. Plus, where else are you going to get a legitimate history lesson about Vlad the Impaler with your dinner? So next time you're looking for something completely different, head down to East Haven. Transylvania Restaurant and Bar is proof that sometimes the best adventures are hiding in plain sight, just off the highway. All right, friends and neighbors, it's time to wrap up our first adventure on Perks and Recreation. We started with chocolate made from the milk of named cows in Goshen, wandered through a book labyrinth guarded by literary cats in Niantic, sailed 173 years back on America's last wooden whale ship, chugged through foliage on a steam train, caught a Broadway-bound show in a riverside opera house, and ended the night with Romanian cabbage rolls under a Dracula-themed chandelier. And if that doesn't scream, Connecticut is kind of weird and magical, I don't know what does. Let's be real. This state doesn't always get the spotlight. We're not New York, though we definitely have better pizza. We're not Boston, but we're not trying to be. We've got our own rhythm, our own flavors, and our own quirky way of surprising you. You can leave your house on a Saturday with zero plans and end up at a farm where the cows have their own chocolate bars. That's not marketing. That's just Tuesday in Litchfield County. Connecticut is the kind of place where history is alive. You can stand on a ship that sailed before the Civil War, ride a train that's older than your grandparents, or eat at a restaurant run by a family who brought their recipe from another continent and made it their own. It's also the kind of place where you can raise your kids knowing they'll grow up with access to forests, farms, theaters, museums, and coastlines, all within a short drive. Where a weekend doesn't have to mean a flight or a hotel stay. It can mean a caramel from a Jersey cow, a vintage copy of Huckleberry Finn found in a barn, or a front row seat to a musical that might just end up on Broadway. The secret is out. Connecticut isn't just a place to live. It's a place with so much to do. To slow down and see the details. The hand-painted sign at the farm stand. The cat napping on a stack of philosophy books. The engineer waving from a steam engine like he's known you for years. So here's my ask. Dive in. Try the thing. Visit the town with the weird name. Say yes to that invitation you'd normally skip. Because the more you explore, the more you realize this little state packed between the big ones, it's got soul. I'm Amanda Elgie, full-time voice actor and full-time believer in the magic of small states and big flavors. Thanks for riding along with me on the first Perks and Recreation. Now, go find your next adventure. It's probably closer than you think.